Anand suggests Canada's interprovincial barriers could crumble within a month. The regulations that are often criticized as barriers to trade between Canadian provinces could all crumble within a month, according to Federal Cabinet Minister Anita Anand. Following an announcement at the Port of Halifax on Wednesday, a reporter asked Anand if interprovincial trade barriers could be dealt with, wiped away, in 30 days. The short answer to your question is yes, responded Anand, the Minister of Transport and International Trade. Anand suggests her optimism was based on an emergency meeting last week between Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the premiers. We are making incredible, fast-paced progress with all of the provinces and territories, she said. Eliminating interprovincial trade barriers between now and Trump's 30-day deadline on the pause for new tariffs would be a remarkable accomplishment and the culmination of work that's been ongoing for decades. In 1995, the provinces, territories, and the federal government formally agreed to remove impediments to trade between jurisdictions. Those barriers include things like prohibitive restrictions on the sale of alcohol, technical barriers such as vehicle weight standards, and regulatory barriers such as licensing and paperwork requirements. The Agreement on International Trade was replaced in 2017 by the Canadian Free Trade Agreement, which recommitted the parties to doing more to reduce red tape.
And that's internal trade, not international trade. The Agreement of Internal Trade.
Sorry, the Agreement of,
Internal Trade, yeah.
And this article came from CBC. First discussion question. From an e-commerce perspective, what do we see as the biggest interprovincial trade barrier?
From an ops perspective, it's shipping.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, shipping is a pain in Canada compared to the US.
Regulations aside, Canada needs better shipping infrastructure.
Yeah. Just after we're getting over a giant Canada post-strike. The USPS has an amazing system that we could completely model. The Canadians could learn something from the US shipping system.
They have a really good system called Media Mail that I think we've talked about on stream before.
Refresh them.
So the way Media Mail works in the US is there are really good shipping rates for shipping packages that do not contain letters in them.
Yeah.
So if you're not trying to send like information that is subject to the same standards that the US Postal Service has always upheld forever, and you're just trying to send stuff around the country, there's really good rates for it, which makes e-commerce really viable going from state to state in the US. It's really cool. Back when I was in the board game space, we relied on Media Mail a couple of times to ship like massive boxes of board games, hundreds at a time, to some of the trade shows we were going to. Now, it wasn't as good as relying on like a distributor's infrastructure, but in a pinch, it was still totally doable.
Yeah, you're not like it's so small business friendly.
Yeah,
like
whereas in Canada, shipping is complicated and it's expensive.
And like what is even worse is from a Canadian perspective. There's a lot of Canadians that shop from US stores, so they see, you get a glimpse through the window of going like, well, why when I buy there, it's like super easy, and then why when I come back to Canada, maybe I got a snowbird, maybe I'm traveling, like it's like, why is this different? And it doesn't need to be at all. So like in terms of interprovincial, and that's again, keep in mind that's outside the things like cannabis and alcohol and guns and ban, like all of that stuff. That's just normal stuff.
From an e-commerce perspective, I mean, the changes in red tape, I don't think makes a huge difference to your typical e-commerce store.
No, there's a whole bunch of stuff if you're like an actual logistics provider. So like if you have like an 18-wheeler, if you have a trailer and you're traveling across Canada. Like the article says, the weight stuff. My father used to do this way back. Like it was one of his first jobs was driving a truck for a brewery, and it was terrible because he'd have to drive from here to here, and there'd be like paperwork and licensing and this and that, and it had to be like a specific weight under here. So you had to like find the lowest common denominator and meet that one, which meant like the truck is underloaded, which means like why? Because I have to drive through. It's like all of that can be simplified because I just got to get goods from like, I got to get glass bottles from here and get the glass bottles there. What are we doing? That should be the easiest thing because I don't even have a reason why it shouldn't be the easiest thing. It's like I'm putting stuff on a truck and getting it from A to B. So
now, as far as our like core audience is concerned,
the shipping is
the biggest thing.
Shipping sucks.
So Canadian government, if you're listening, Figure out a way to give us better shipping infrastructure.
Better shipping infrastructure would be sweet.
Um,
Every Canadian business would benefit.
yeah.
All of them. I don't care if you're shipping this way up into like across provinces, into the states, into the territories.
So-
Shipping infrastructure benefits everyone.
To that note, there's been a big push with everything going on in the world right now to buy local. A lot of people are pushing for you to, buy Canadian.
Yep.
And one thing I've commonly seen is people saying, "Oh, make a commitment to drop Amazon and shop from Canadian."
That is
companies."
not that's like a half measure, because there's lots of little local Canadian businesses that operate through Amazon because they can't get the same
Sure.
so I'm a little local
I was taking
Canadian,
that in a different direction, but yeah,
Okay.
I like what you're saying with this.
right? Like I'm a Canadian business and I'm in a small market, and like my business is like great. I'm doing
Yeah.
something, but I can't thrive. I can't even sustain myself on my little local community. I have to sell into a bigger market to make my little shop stand out, because I have to do that. So I would really like.
But so the plea wasn't for businesses to stop selling on Amazon. The plea was for shoppers to stop just going to Amazon, go to a local Canadian company first.
Go to a local Canadian company first. Right?
One of the challenges with this, though, is Amazon has shipping nailed down.
Oh, they have it crushed.
And-
It's like magical how good it is.
Other businesses can't compete with that at all.
No.
So like that's one of the biggest barriers to my mind to shopping Canadian
Mm-hmm.
is that our shipping system needs to be sorted out. Even in terms of things like a viable Amazon competitor. I think one of the biggest things holding back the Shopify Shop app from competing with Amazon as a marketplace is that their fulfillment option doesn't make sense for small merchants, but a big volume of the product available through the Shop app is coming from small merchants. So there's no easy way to get all of your purchases from different merchants that are all on Shop shipped to you consistently.
Right. And I brought up on my screen here, there's Shopify had come out with a competitor to Amazon. It is nowhere close to what Amazon has. It's
a
called
competitor to Fulfilled by Amazon, specifically.
Yes,
because the Shop app is a competitor to Amazon Marketplace. What you're showing off is a competitor to Fulfilled by Amazon.
Fulfilled
FBA.
by Amazon, FBA. So like Shopify has a fulfillment network that is very similar to Fulfilled by Amazon, FBA. It's just not there yet. It's only available to merchants once you hit a certain size. You'll need to be doing like millions of dollars in revenue, and like thousands of orders of a month for them to actually stock it. But Shopify does have warehouses. They do have this, but it's
my
not
point,
at the same
though,
level.
Is that if you're brand new and you're just like, you're one of the people who heard from a YouTuber that you need to be selling online and you're diving in, you can go and open up a product that's fulfilled by Amazon.
Oh, immediately.
Right? You can just go start doing that. You can't do that with Shopify.
Huge barriers.
And so our Canadian e-commerce space doesn't have the shipping options to compete with a company like Amazon.
Yep.
And so I think if the Canadian government could figure out a way to improve our shipping situation, that would be a big help.
Yeah.
Now that said, they've said that the trade barriers that they are talking about resolving could be resolved within a month. Do we think that statement has any actual concrete implications?
I can't believe, because when I first read this the other day when we were putting this together, but like the in 1995 formally agreed, like this has been going on for the better part of 30 years now, which is insane, because it's just like, how this doesn't seem like a 30-year problem.
Right.
This seems like you could get this solved in a couple of years, like one government, like how long a government average lasts is, like, okay, that one government solves this problem, and then maybe there's like amendments to that with the advent of like legalized cannabis, or like maybe there's like somewhat new guidelines that have to go into when new highways open up or something like that. But like this doesn't seem like a 30-year problem. So like,
and so when they say now we can solve this 30-year problem within 30 days,
it's like,
who the heck knows?
I have no idea.
I'd love to see it, but I don't think that they've done anything to show us that it's necessarily going to happen.
I would love to see some data, and I don't even know where I would look, because I don't think there's enough transparency for this, about like what the cost of these barriers actually amounts to in terms of like the average Canadian.
Sure.
Whether that's a slowdown, whether that's like the cost of goods, whether that has to do with a little bit of inflation just because our systems are so inefficient. Like, by removing these things, what do we stand to benefit? Because like what they talk about, these barriers include things like, of course there should be restrictions to prohibited things, because as we as a society are admitting, we have prohibited things in our society. Okay, but what about everything else? Like, because I don't think
it says the restrictions.
on scale such as vehicle weight.
Barriers include things like prohibitive restrictions. So they're not saying that the things are prohibitive.
On the sale of alcohol.
I get that,
Right.
but they're saying that the restriction is prohibitive.
Right. Okay.
Right.
So like there's like I'm
they're
okay.
saying that the restriction stops that business from being able to function, which is bad.
Which is bad. Like I don't understand why we can't. So like how many small breweries do we know? Why can't they sell their alcohol?
Oh yeah.
Like there it is. Like okay, you make a good beer, or like let's actually talk about this because this is in the news currently. There are Canadians stocking up on California wine.
Sure.
Go in preparation for these tariffs. Okay, great. You like California red wine. Awesome, cool. Why do we have prohibitive restrictions on Canadian winemakers if I can't get my wine to other Canadians, but I can get a California red that's 7,000 miles away into an Ontario LCBO, but the winery that's in BC, which is technically closer, we can't get a wine from the West Coast into an LCBO like that.
Well, so that's
right?
kind of a rough example because you can get them in the LCBO.
You can.
That's actually no problem.
But
the problem is that they can't ship it to us directly, not easily.
I should be able to go right to the. I should be able to get because.
They should like this, yeah. I mean,
Right?
if you can buy cannabis online, there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to easily buy alcohol.
That you should be. So like this isn't. I mean, again, this isn't a firearm. This isn't something that is it. Yeah, it's prohibited, but like there should be ways for people to do trade, and these are some of like the biggest businesses and biggest things that Canadians like. So,
yeah.
And again, removing that red tape. Whenever we can remove red tape around things that like we as a society don't. You know, there should be red tape around some things and not around others. If we can get that gone, again, it's just disheartening. A 30-year problem.
I'd love to see the government solve this 30-year problem with red tape. They've said that they could. They've said that they're in talks about it. We'll see if that amounts to anything.
Please do it.